What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Emily, or MDunk, whatever you want to call me. Today we're here for kind of a mixture of a sit down and like more experiential video. I don't even know what to call it. It's gonna be a mixture of sit down and clips. That's what this is. So today's video is gonna be all about blood sugar and testing your blood sugar with a glucometer. You guys see me do this a lot on my Instagram stories, and a lot of you ask me how I do it, why I do it, all that. So I figured since I get a lot of questions on it, and since I had to start doing it again, then I would make a video on it and share it. Before we start this video, I just wanted to give a disclaimer that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, so anything that I'm telling you in this video is just based on the advice that I've received from professionals that I work with and just my own experience. So please always keep that in mind when you're watching my videos or anyone else's, unless you're watching a doctor or dietitian's videos, then they are a doctor or dietitian, but disclaimer. So basically I decided to just try at least and start sharing more of my process. You guys know I've been going through a lot of health issues in this last year. It's been really difficult for me. I've been trying to keep, not like trying to keep quiet, but like trying to keep more quiet about it because it's not like a common thing. It's not something that it's like widely recognized. There's a lot of people that are like, you're just making bullshit up, like, so people don't believe me. There's literally people that are like, no, you're just a bikini chick that gained a bunch of weight. And I'm like, no, that's literally not what it is. It's like an actual health problem. But I decided that no matter what anybody says, whether they believe me or not, there's been tons of you out there that have been experiencing the same things that I have, and so I just want to share that and try and help you guys as best as I can, no matter what. So I'm just gonna start talking about my process a little bit more. Basically, you guys know I've been working with Vince from Nutrition Dynamic for a very long time, since about September. So now he and Nick, which is Nick Tong, which is my prep coach, they are working together to help me combat all this stuff. I think they are two just very wise and intelligent individuals, and I feel very comfortable with both of them. So what Vince has coined, and like what the people that he works with and the people that he educates about this topic, like he's been doing conferences and seminars and everything with like even dietitians that are like starting to get in on this and starting to understand it. It's coined as metabolic resistance or metabolic compensation. It's a general, it's like the way he describes it is every system in my body, it's like if you have a dimmer switch like on lights, it's like the dimmer switch is just turned down a little bit, so everything is just like a little bit dim, like all my hormones, my metabolism, my adrenal glands, just like everything. And so that leads to like a whole, not leads to, it's like caused by a whole cascade of different issues. So that's like the name that's put on it. That's the name that they refer to, and they're talking about treating people, including myself. So that is what I'm going to call it from here on out. One thing that I had to start so kind of how the process works with him is I had to be like very intensive with him for probably the first September, October, November, December, January, like the first 5 months was really intensive with him. Like I was going to see him in Cincinnati every other week. They do stuff over the phone, so if you're not like as close as I am, I'm about an hour and a half from Cincinnati. If you're not as close as I am, then you know, you have that option too if you want to work with them. But I was going to see him every other week for scans and checkups and stuff like that. I was getting regular blood work, doing glucose testing every week, sending him online check-ins every week along with going in to see him every other week. It was a lot. And then when I got to a more stable place, when I decided to start a cut, I kind of transitioned into using another coach. As you guys know from previous videos, things did not work out so well with that coach. It just wasn't the right dynamic for me. So I asked Vince, I was like, would you be comfortable with me working with Nick again and kind of educating him about this process, just because Nick is probably the most, like, he is the person that I trust the most with my body. He and Vince are. So I'm like, if I can put the two of them together, then like, I really feel like this is going to be a good thing. But essentially, when I tried to do a cut, not only did the coach-client relationship not work out super well, the cut actually didn't work out super well. My body just was not ready for it, and it kind of started falling back into those same metabolic resistance patterns, and basically, like, much to my dismay, not much really happened with the cut in terms of changes, so that was super frustrating to me. And there's a dog scratching at the door. But anyway, so I started to go back into what's called metabolic resistance, and so I am now in the process of, thankfully I caught it quickly, but now I'm in the process of getting back out of that. So one of the things that I had to start doing with Vince when I worked with him, now I am doing again, is taking blood sugar readings regularly. So I have to take them fasted, which is first thing in the morning before I have anything to eat or drink, and then 2 hours postprandial, so 2 hours after every meal. And I'll get into why in a second, but just a quick thing too, I think it's like super interesting that this all ties in because when I was little, I was hypoglycemic, so I had low blood sugar. That was very common in my family, and I had that too. I started to notice that around middle school, and I kind of like evened out around high school. But yeah, I used to have hypoglycemia, so that's really kind of, not really, maybe not really that interesting at all, but I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know. It's whatever. Just a nice aside. So first off, I'm just going to show you how I take my blood sugar, what I use for it. So that clip will be right here.
So this is just a Freestyle Freedom Light Kit. It comes with this guy, which is the actual glucometer. It comes with a little thing you prick yourself with. It does not come with the testing strips. You have to buy the testing strips yourself, and they are pretty pricey. Like, this container was about $100. So it's not cheap, but the actual testing kit is, so you kind of, you know, whatever.
I just got this stuff at Walgreens. I think I said this in the clip. The actual glucometer itself is relatively inexpensive. It's the strips that get you, like the strips were like $100 for a pack of them, which is not cheap, but it is what it is. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about why your blood sugar is important, and then a little bit about body rhythms. So I'm sure you guys have heard of your circadian rhythms, and then females, we have monthly rhythms. So you know your menstrual cycle, that is a monthly rhythm. And then the hormone cortisol in your body. I feel like this is becoming more well known, but not a lot of people know it. Cortisol actually has a natural rhythm within your body as well. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It's got a really bad reputation, but we actually do need it, so it's not as demonic as everybody, you know, says it is. Chronically high cortisol is really bad, but so is chronically low cortisol. So your cortisol rhythms, you have a natural rise in the morning, and then they kind of fall down throughout the day, but it should be the lowest before you go to sleep, because cortisol, what it does is it revs you up, it gets you ready. Like when you have that surge in the morning, that's, you know, get you ready for your daily activities, get you ready to do things. That's why a lot of people, myself included, you have your most energy in the morning. But what cortisol does in like a survival situation, survival standpoint, is it gets you ready to be in that fight or flight mode. That's why it's got a bad reputation as the stress hormone, or as the just like hormone. Yeah. But it does have a very important function, and so that's why you want it low at night before you go to sleep, because you want that feeling, you want to be more parasympathetic at night before you go to sleep. So you want to be more relaxed and calm, so you can naturally fall into your body's sleep rhythm. So actually one of the things that I noticed when I first started falling into metabolic resistance back like a year ago was I would have, you know, my normal energy in the morning, and then it would be like trash throughout the day. Like literally I would have to lay down and nap for like 2 hours after a workout. Like not even nap, just lay down, because I'm like physically incapable of napping. Literally I can't nap to save my life, much to my dismay. But then at night I would have like this weird wired energy, and that was just it's uneven cortisol rhythm. So where does blood glucose come into this, or blood sugar? Blood sugar is basically just that. It's the amount of sugar or glucose within your blood at any given time. So blood glucose and cortisol are closely related. They are good friends. Blood glucose readings tell you how your body's handling carbohydrates. It tells you a little bit about your insulin, because you know you obviously see diabetics testing their blood sugar all the time. But what a lot of people don't know is that your blood sugar rhythms can also, or your glycadian rhythms as Vince likes to call them, your blood sugar rhythms can tell you a lot about your cortisol rhythms as well, because they are very intertwined. So when I first went into Vince and he had me start testing my blood sugar, I was actually what's called dysglycemic, where I had unstable blood sugar. So what that would look like was my blood sugar would fluctuate a lot throughout the day. You know, it would be pretty normal when I would wake up, and I would have a lot of just weird spikes, like peaks and valleys in my blood sugar throughout the day. So one of our health markers for recovery from MET resistance, or MET comp, whatever you want to call it, was stable blood sugar levels. So your healthy resting blood sugar is typically seen as anything under 100. Vince particularly wants to see mine in the 80s. And then I also take 2-hour postprandial measurements. So when you eat, your blood sugar spikes, and then it comes back down in a couple of hours. That's why you take a 2-hour postprandial blood sugar. So at first, I would get really high highs, like in the hundreds, and then I would get really low lows, like sometimes in the 60s or really low 70s. Which might not be super low for some people, but that's not where Vince wanted to see them, and it definitely wasn't stable compared to where my fasting sugars would start at. So not a super great thing. Things stabilized, but then when I went back and when I started feeling funny again, when I started going back into that metabolic resistance type pattern, I started taking my sugars again, and lo and behold, things would be pretty normal. I didn't have any of the super high spikes, which was good, but I did have some low lows. So I actually did this last week, and I had a low, and it was pretty similar timing. It was after my workout, so I would have my post-workout meal, and then 2 hours after that I took my blood sugar, and it was at 63, which is pretty freaking low, especially for me, especially for somebody that has had a stable blood sugar for a while now, or a few months at least now. So I sent it to Vince, and I was like, what do I do? What's going on? So basically his response, he said that my cortisol was dropping and that my post-workout meal was not hefty enough, it wasn't substantial enough to keep that stable. So I needed it to be slightly higher in carb and then also have a protein source with it and take a glucose disposal agent or a GDA with it. I do take GDAs with all my meals, which I'll talk about in a second. But needed a slightly higher carb with protein in it to keep it stable until my next meal. So basically all I did was I think I took it from a different meal. I added about 20 grams of carbs to my post-workout meal, waited a week doing that, and then tested it again, and my blood sugar stayed a little bit more stable. It was in the 70s that time, so still not super great, but definitely not as bad as in the 60s. So it's definitely improving. But you also want a protein source in there because protein kind of like, I don't know if it's saying that it acts as a buffer is the right word, but protein kind of acts as a buffer. So if you eat just carbohydrate alone, you're going to get a very large spike in blood sugar and then you're going to be followed by a crash. And so when you have protein in there, it kind of, you'll still get that rise in blood sugar, but it keeps it a little bit more stable. So that's why having a combined meal of protein and carbohydrate as opposed to just carbohydrate is helpful. And then again, kind of like I briefly mentioned, another strategy for management is taking glucose disposal agents. This is also something that if you are insulin resistant, then this can be of help to you. A glucose disposal agent, basically it helps you manage your insulin sensitivity and resistance, and it also helps you partition carbohydrates more efficiently and more effectively. The one that I take, I will put it up on the screen here. I've been taking this ever since I started working with Vince. I take it after all of my carbohydrate containing meals. But yeah, that is a little bit of a look into why I test my blood sugar so much. We're trying to basically monitor those rhythms so we can kind of tie together how my cortisol rhythms are doing and how my sugar rhythms are doing so that we can see not only how I'm using glucose and how my insulin's doing, but also to see how my cortisol rhythms are doing. So that is kind of it. If you are interested in just seeing where your own blood sugar is at, it's definitely something that's not going to hurt for you to know. It's just a general marker of health. So yeah, you can just hop over to Walgreens or CVS and pick up a glucometer. Make sure you have the little pricky things, the lancets, that's what they're called, and then also the testing strips, and super easy, that's it. Doesn't really hurt that bad, you get used to it. It's just like a little weird at first because you're like, oh my god, I'm literally like shooting myself with this thing, but it's really not that bad, especially if it helps you be healthier. That's it for me today. I hope you guys learned something fun and cool, new, interesting, whatever today. There is a dog taking a big dump outside the window. Get it. Yeah. If you did, leave a comment below. Please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to hear more about, this process that I'm going through and what I'm doing to help it, please let me know, as I'm trying to be more open about it because that's really all I can do since this is something that I'm still dealing with, much to my dismay. But yeah. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already and you would like to be, if you would like to see more health, fitness, wellness, nutrition, training, life content, please let me know and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Love ya!